You know why IT is great, specifically the field of security? Because I can go to one of my colleagues in the world of security and say, hey, I'm really interested in penetration testing and probing for holes in your security posture. And they don't so much as giggle. But I do, because I'm just totally immature. Hey there, ladies and gents, welcome back to the vlog. My name is Drew, and I'm just so happy that you're here today. Today we are going to be continuing the series entitled ELI-CS Major, the series where I talk about different roles in the world of professional IT and computer science and explain them in such a way that if you're interested in computer science or you're in college and you're getting ready to look for a job, maybe this video will be of some use to you and help you to better understand the different jobs that are out there for you. And today we are going to be talking about InfoSec. I-N-F-O-S-E-C. You heard it incorrectly. Get your mind out of gutter. So, information security, or InfoSec, or NetSec, or AppSec, whatever you want to call it. So, security is probably one of the most broad topics in the world of IT. And there's so many different ways that you can cut it and you can boil it down. And bear in mind, this isn't going to be a comprehensive video because Adobe Premiere doesn't let me edit any videos that are longer than 24 hours. But anyway, we'll be just diving in or taking a 50,000 foot view at the very, very top of security and talk a little bit about the different positions and the different stuff that you can expect in the world of security. So to kick things off, let's get a few key terms out of the way. Bear in mind, these terms are subjective. They kind of move around and they mean different things to different people, but I will give you my definition just for form and function, and as we use it throughout, or we use these terms throughout the video, you can just heighten back to what we talk about here. So information security, application security, and network security are all practices in the world of IT security. Information security is a more general term encompassing anything that has information on it, so anything that beeps or boops or is on a network or anything that holds information. That's information security looks at securing those things. And application security is looking at security within applications specifically and the threats that are present within application development, tests, and things like that. And network security is all of the same things as application security, just with networks. So looking at networks, how to provision networks, how to protect networks, all that good stuff with security in mind. In addition to those three terms, we're also going to be talking about red team and blue team. Blue team is, in the world of IT security, well understood to mean any team that works actively to prevent threats and respond to active security issues in a timely fashion. Red team is the other side of the coin, where you have security professionals who are actively trying to break stuff and find vulnerabilities and exploit those vulnerabilities before a bad actor does so. And by the way, always use the term bad actor when referring to somebody who uses computers for nefarious services. The term hacker is actually a term of endearment in the world of information security. So if you call somebody a hacker, you're giving them a compliment. It somehow got turned around in the media and everything like that, but if you call a hacker, then they're gonna see it as a term of endearment, whereas if you use bad actor, that's what's understood to be a bad person or somebody who does bad things with computers. So minor aside there. Anyway, so getting into that, let's talk about some of the different roles that you'll have out of college that you can look into. And I have a fair bit of anecdotal evidence or anecdotal experience with this because my background's actually in security. I've always kind of took a very curious interest in keeping things safe and using technology to protect people and protect information versus using it to exploit people and exploit information. So that's why I'm sure you've heard it in my other videos. I talk about like growing up and playing pranks with computers, writing little files that open the drive on the computer over and over. So that kind of mischief kind of festered inside of me, and that grew into my interest in security and eventually into my career interest, which is now in information security. So out of the gate, when you get done with college and you're ready to go into the professional world and say, hey, I want to get into the world of security, there's usually a couple positions that you can look at. There are security analysts, there are security engineers, and there's some different flavors of each of those. So within the world of analysts, so analysts are people who usually work in a SOC, or a security operations center. You may hear it, again, termed differently at different companies, but generally a SOC is a center, that is security operations center. It's a center where security operations are carried out. So generally you are working at a desk. It's not necessarily a help desk, but it's kind of similar to a help desk in that way, and generally you'll be sifting logs. You'll be using a tool like ArcSight or Splunk to look into logs and kind of piece together the pieces, and when you notice weird stuff happening, you usually escalate that to IR, or incident response, and then they go and they take care of it. So an analyst's job is to basically be at the terminal, at the ready, sifting logs, writing scripts, writing automations to detect anomalies, and then pass them on to the needed parties for resolution. Also within the world of analysts, there is incident response, which I just talked about. So if an analyst or a SOC analyst gets the information and presents the case, then the incident resolution guy is the one who goes and actually fixes it. So if I notice that there's a box sitting in one of our data centers that has a bad patch on it, or it hasn't been updated in a while, and there's a possible vulnerability, or we're noticing some interesting traffic there, it could be that they're trying to exploit something, then IR will go to the sysadmins and say, hey, you've got to patch this box, or hey, we've got an emerging issue on this box, I need in so that I can take a look at it, and then they work the problem until resolution. So incident response, you're usually on call, and that means that if for whatever reason at 2 a.m., because remember, bad actors don't sleep, and usually they're on different time zones than we are, if for some reason you get a DDoS or some sort of attack at 2 a.m. and you're on call, then you got to get up and get on the war room call or on the bridge and start talking with all the different people to get that resolved. So generally you start out as an analyst and then you move to IR later, unless you're just really ambitious and you don't value your sleep at all, then you can go straight into IR. And I know some people who've done that. They've gone straight into IR just because they're more interested in actually fixing stuff versus sifting logs. That's totally fine. But realize if you want to be an incident response, you have to have a pretty solid understanding of the SOC side of things, or the analyst side of things, because you have to know what to look for and you have to look at the different signs or the different signatures, the different fingerprints or tracks in the mud in order to find the issue and then eventually resolve it. So that's the analyst side of thing. And as you crawl up the ladder, you'll go to like a senior analyst and then on up into, like I said, incident response, or you can become a security architect, which will continue to look at different stuff and start to actually plot like the move forward. So it's like, hey, we've noticed this certain number of attacks that happened this last year. I think we can mitigate it by deploying this, that, and the other. And then you actually start architecting stuff and building a roadmap for security posture later down the road. So that's one route you can go. The other route is the security engineer side of things. So a security engineer is kind of the proactive approach versus the reactive approach. The SOC analysts will be looking at reactive stuff. So they'll be looking at stuff that's happening right here, right now, and they're reacting to it. Whereas on the security engineering side of things, you are taking a proactive approach. And typically what that looks like is you'll be, if you're in a good company or a forward-thinking company, there's actually this new model called Purple Team. And so as a security engineer, you'll be sitting down with a Java developer or a PHP developer or whoever, and you look at their code and you do an audit and you say, hey, based on this, it looks like this is a vector for SQL injection, or this could be a vector for cross-site scripting or CSRF, cross-site refresh forgery. It's easier to think these things than it is to say them. But all these wonderful acronyms that you find in the OWASP top 10 and all that good stuff, and you go to the developers and say, hey, this is how you fix it. You may run automated tests or suites, so Burp Suite is a big one, OWASP Zap, Vega, all of those tools are used by security engineers to audit code and audit applications and find holes and then eventually patch them before they get deployed and can be exploited by a bad actor. So security engineering is definitely more of the coding side of things. So if you like to develop and you like to fix code and do actual developing, the security engineer role is probably more in your wheelhouse. Whereas if you're looking to become more active in the practice of security and understanding how to actually break stuff and eventually get into a role where you do that as a career, which is really fun, by the way, we'll talk about that in a second, then you'll probably want to go the analyst role. So as with most software engineering jobs, you can go from a junior engineer up to a senior engineer, you can become a department manager, you may be able to work your way up into like a CISO role, Chief Information Security Officer from the engineering side. So the architects and the CISOs and all those guys, they all work pretty closely together. So if you go the engineering route, you're more than likely going to either become an architect yourself or work very closely with the architects who come from the other side of the house. Or it could be just a mishmash. It really depends on the company and their security posture and what they're working on from a security standpoint. Now, I mentioned that's all blue team. That's blue team stuff. Now, red team, that's where stuff really starts to get fun. So if you go for a couple of years, you work at a SOC, you work your way up to incident response, that sort of thing, and you develop a very keen knowledge of how attacks are carried out, you can then go and work on red team, which is active penetration testing, probing, and actually breaking stuff before other people can break it. And people pay big, massive money for this. There are security consultants and pen testers that make well into the six-figure range, and it is so much fun. Like, if you were one of those kids growing up that was a hacker and you like would mess around with games or do stuff like that, then this is getting to do that professionally. And to give you guys an idea, one really amazing talk was by a guy named Jayson, and he did it at Defcon. He's actually a physical penetration tester, so he works on physical security and social engineering. I think the talk is called something like break in, kill everything, steal everything, or something like that. I'll link it in the description down below, but I watched this guy's talk and I kind of nodded to myself. It's like, yeah, I want to do that one day. That'd be really fun. So, but other than that, if you're not doing physical security, then you can do network pen testing, you can do application pen testing. Red team is just anything that encompasses active, threat modeling and attacking and basically trying to break into stuff and move stuff around. That's a really generalized way of explaining it, but the world of penetration testing to me is a lot of fun. So if you're a person who does a lot of CTF or does a lot of hacking or Mary hacking, safe hacking, or you go to a lot of hackathons, then penetration testing is probably where it's at for you guys. But again, I'm not going to tell you what way to go one way or the other. Anywhere that you go in the world of security, it's a lot of fun. Now, to realize there is a kind of, I don't want to say a dark side to it, but security requires a lot of thick skin. You got to remember that security exists because there are bad people in this world who do bad things with computers. And it kind of upsets me, or it makes me very angry that people use technology for bad things. I've always seen technology as kind of this amazing thing that's always been in my life and helped me grow and everything like that. And to think that somebody else is using it to cause people distress or mayhem and some of the horrible things that are out there, you kind of have to be not cold to it, but realize that the work that you're doing is fighting off oftentimes criminals or very bad actors. And to that end, if you get into certain fields, you may see some things, or you may see certain mayhem and all that sort of stuff. And it does take a fair bit of thick skin, but it's a very interesting area of IT. If you've got that kind of thick skin, obviously you can kind of pace set with yourself, and you can say, hey, this is something that I feel comfortable with, or maybe this isn't the worry or the world for me, maybe I'll go do something else, and that's totally fine. But for a general rule, security is a lot of fun, and you can do a lot of good and make a lot of difference in the world of security. But I wanted to offer that one disclaimer, because when you start getting into like cyber crimes and stuff like that, it can get really hairy. So just a fair warning, but I don't want to deter you in any way. Security is a great place to be, and it's growing. I mean, they say by 2020 they're going to be spending close to $1 trillion in security or information security related expenses in the public and private sector, and right now there's like 40,000 or 50,000 active practicing information security professionals, and we need something like 200,000, and by 2020 we're going to need like 500,000. There's a bunch of reports from like Reuters and Gartner and all those big companies that write all those reports. But anyway, all those reports say that it's going to be a really big world, and as you start to harness your skills in these next 5 to 10 years, it's only going to become more and more pertinent that we have good quality security professionals, and obviously the salary and the money and all the benefits for being a good, hardy security professional will be getting better and better over time. So friends, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have another idea for the ELI-CS Major series, definitely leave a comment down below. I'm happy to make a video about whatever it is I can figure out about that particular position and present it in the typical Andrew way. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like and make sure to subscribe. That way, whenever we release a ELI-CS Major video, you'll be here to check it out. And we'll end off this video in the normal way, and that is by me saying, always remember, friends, that you are wanted, you are loved, and you are appreciated. You have a special talent that nobody else has, and the world is waiting on you to bring it out. So muster a little courage, go out into the world, and change it. That's what the world is waiting on. You.